name is Jess, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about my year 2019 in books. Today I kind of wanted to do, I wanted to do a sort of talk about my year in 2019 in terms of the books I've read, and sort of I didn't know how to do that other than doing like a best books of 2019 and worst books of 2019, and I kind of didn't want to do that. What I want to do with this is I'm gonna just go through the months of the year, tell you what I read in those months. I'm not going to go into too much detail of giving like summaries or anything like that. I just want to give like the rating that I gave, and then I don't know, maybe a quick sentence? I don't know, this is hard, I'm scared. I have my Goodreads page, my reading challenge in front of me, and let's just get into it because this is going to be really long. So for 2019 on Goodreads, I set my challenge as 25 books, and I'm very pleased to announce that I smashed it. I did well, basically, and yeah, so I'm just going to go through literally every book I read, a quick sentence about them or the rating or whatever. 3, 2, 1. The first book that I read in 2019 was Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray, which is the third book in the Diviners series. This was my first read through of the Diviners, and I adored it. I gave the last one 4 stars, but I can't remember why. But I'm very excited for King of Crows to come out in February. The second book that I read in 2019 was What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. This was super cute. I gave it 5 stars. I think after reflection I'd probably bring that down a little bit because it wasn't amazing, but it definitely made me feel a lot of things. It was super cute, and yeah, would recommend. I love both these authors anyway. So next up we have Chasing the Stars by Mallory Blackman. Oh, by the way, these 3 were all read in January and February because I had a really slow couple reading months. Anyway, Chasing the Stars by Mallory Blackman. This was, funnily enough, my worst rated book of the year. This is my absolute worst book of the year. I gave it 1 star because you have to give a star rating. It was awful. It was just cliched, insta-love, shit characters, it was bad. It was really, really bad. But I enjoy talking shit about it. Then on to March. In March of 2019, I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This I gave, to go from the last one to this one, I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. It made me cry. I can't wait to reread it soon because I'm definitely going to. But oh my god, I love this book, and whenever I think about it, I just feel happy. It's amazing. Would recommend. Next up in March, I read my first ever audiobook, which was The Cheerleaders by Cara Thomas. Yes, it was my first ever audiobook. It's a thriller. I gave it 4 stars. Fast-paced, interesting, but thrillers aren't really my thing, and it was fine. It was, for a first audiobook, it was really, really useful for me, so that was great. And then on to April, I read my second audiobook, which was The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli, and I gave this one 3 stars. It was pretty cheesy, pretty meh, like I didn't really feel a lot about it, but again, it was easy for me to understand as my second ever audiobook, and the time that I listened to these audiobooks, it was a really interesting time of the year for me, so it'll be interesting to like keep those in mind. Like when I think of those books, I think of what I was doing at the time, if that makes sense. In May of 2019, I read Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer, which is the second book in the Renegades trilogy. I gave Arch Enemies 4 stars. Can't remember why. I love this series though, it's great. The second book that I read in May of 2019 was On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I gave it 4 stars. It was really, really interesting. I loved seeing the side of someone that I'll never be like. Obviously the main character is a young black girl and she's into rap and she lives in a very different place to me, if that makes sense. So like, it was really interesting for me to see things that I wouldn't normally see, and like I normally seek out characters in books that are similar to me, and to read this was really, really great, and Bree is a great character. And then in May I did the unthinkable, the amazing. I reread the Twilight Saga by Stephanie Meyer. I did try and make videos on this, but I don't even know if they're up. I can't remember if I made them or not. But yeah, in May and a bit of June, I reread the Twilight Saga. It was amazing. I mean, did I give it ratings? 4 stars I gave it. Yeah, but like, I love them. I'll always love them. They're very special to me, and it was a really fun time rereading them. Also in June of 2019, I read All the Invisible Things by Orla Collins. I gave this one 3 stars. It was super cute contemporary, about something I'm really interested in. I'm actually using it for my dissertation, so that's going to be really interesting to reread it again. But yeah, it was fine. In July of 2019, I was on holiday, so I managed to read quite a lot. So, on holiday, I managed to read Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This I gave not a very high rating for, 3 stars. It wasn't my fave, but again, it was something different for me, a bit more adult, the stuff that I usually read, and it was very high on all the like bestseller lists at the time. Also, I got a signed copy. I also read on holiday in July Things a Bright Girl Can Do by Sally Nichols. This was a historical fiction that I really enjoyed. I had a great time reading this. I gave it 5 stars, which, remembering it, I don't remember giving it 5 stars, but I must have loved it even more than I thought. And then next up, in July, I read a book that I actually bought while I was on holiday on the way back because I'd finished everything I'd read and I wanted to get into something new. And it is The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. And this was a really interesting pick for me. It was so random. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was actually a really great read. The story I absolutely loved the idea of. So I would recommend this one if you're looking for something a little bit different that maybe people haven't really heard of before, because I hadn't heard of it before. In July, at the end of July, I also started, so July to August and even a bit of September, I started rereading my favourite series ever, which is The Raven Boys. So The Raven Cycle, my favourite series of all time. I read them over a couple of months. 5 stars, obviously. Y'all know, I wanted to reread them because Call Down the Hawk was coming out, so I reread them. Also in August, I listened to Trouble by Non Pratt, and I gave that one 3 stars. It was interesting. I listened to a lot of audiobooks that are quite old, because that's all that my audiobook provider really has, is like old contemporaries. So it was interesting. Easy to listen to again. The voices were pretty good, but other than that, it was a bit meh. In September as well, for the first time, I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I gave this obviously 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely adore this book, and I just, yeah, it was amazing. I read the hardback copy, the physical copy. Everybody knows what this is about. I don't need to say anything else. Loved it. In September, I had a really good reading month in September, like insanely good. In September, I also read American Royals, which I got from my local library, which is by Catherine McGee, excuse me. I gave American Royals 3 stars. It wasn't great quality-wise, but I did enjoy it. It's very scandalous and sort of following the theme of royal stuff that a lot of YA is having lately. But it was nice. I'd probably read the sequel when it comes out, to be fair. It was just fun. Also in September, I read my favourite book of the year, and possibly one of my favourite books of all time, which was The Disasters by M.K. England. I listened to this on my audiobook provider, and I'd had it saved for ages, like absolutely ages, and it finally became available. So I listened to it, and it was just magical. The audiobook version is fantastic. The narrator, whose name I forget, is absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to own it on physical copy, because hopefully I'm getting it for Christmas. And yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. The best book I've read all year. Please read The Disasters if you like YA, sci-fi, queer, chaotic space children that are just making mistakes and having a great time together. Found family, disaster bisexuals, just it's my favourite thing ever. It's now very, it's literally tied up here with The Night Circus, and it might be overtaking it when I reread it. it was fantastic. I can't wait to read it again. Next up in September, I read Release by Patrick Ness. This was again from my library and I gave it 3 stars. I found it kind of weird. Patrick Ness has a really interesting style that I really like. I love his style, but I just don't really get what he's on about half the time. The concepts of his stories are very strange and I can't really get on board with them a lot of the time, but I appreciate him as an author because I know he's very, very well loved. In October, I read Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman, and then I proceeded to read the entirety of the Heartstopper series online, still reading it as it's coming out. I gave Heartstopper 4 stars. It was very simple, very cute. The art style was really, really adorable. It was my first ever graphic novel, I believe. It was great. I loved it. I devoured it in literally one night, so that was amazing. I need to breathe. Whew. In October, I also listened to Opal, which is a short story that's linked to The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. I gave it 4 stars. It was a little bit weird again. I didn't love Opal as a character, and to have this whole story about her, I was kind of like, I don't really care. But it kind of set a few things up for Call Down the Hawk, so yeah, that's why I listened to it as well, because Call Down the Hawk is coming out. In October, I also listened to The Black Coats by Colleen Oakes, which is something that I hadn't really heard of by anyone else, but it was really interesting. I gave it 3 stars. And I can't really remember why. I think I remember it better than it was. A very strange secret society kind of situation and had a lot of potential. And I can't remember why it didn't live up to its potential. So have a read of it, have a listen to it, see what you think. Because to me, it was really interesting. In November, or end of October, November, I actually listened to Daisy Jones and the Six. So I read it twice. In 1 year, which I never do. I don't think I've read the same book twice in 1 year, like since I was a child, because it just was wild to me. But so many people had told me that the audiobook was fantastic, and I hadn't been able to get it on my audiobook provider, so I managed to get it, and 5 stars, like 10 stars to the audiobook version is absolutely amazing, and I'm trying to get like everyone in my life to read it. I think a lot of people that I know would really love Daisy Jones, so another 5 stars to that. So technically Daisy got 10 stars this year, which is phenomenal if you ask me. And then in November we had Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater, the first in the Dreamer trilogy. I gave it 5 stars, absolutely amazing. Chef's kiss. Maggie is my favourite author ever in the whole world, and I absolutely adore her and everything she does, and I can't wait for more. Y'all know how I feel about this book. I don't need to tell you. And then in November I also listened to Keeping You a Secret by Julie Ann Peters. This was a random one that I found on audiobook that I just needed an audiobook to listen to, so I got it. It's an old one, another old sort of early 2000s contemporary, and it was meh. It was not great. I gave it 3 stars. Not much to say about it. Read it if you want. The most recent book that I finished, and it took me the entirety of December to read this book, and you'll find out why in my upcoming reading vlog. If it's up already, I'll link it here. But I read The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I gave it, unfortunately, 3 stars, but again, you can find out more about that when I film it, when I upload it, blah blah blah. Hi, update. I was just editing this video and realised I didn't add in the final book that I read in 2019, which I actually I received it for Christmas, and I read it in 1 day on the 27th of December, so it's really a late contender that I didn't think was going to come in, but it was Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Absolutely adored it, 5 out of 5 stars, will read again. Best way to end 2019 on this book that everybody's been loving, and I wasn't able to read until very late on, but absolutely loved it, and definitely happy that it's the last thing I read in 2019. Anyway, back to the other video. And now we have it. It's not been as long as I thought. Thank God for that. That is everything that I read in 2019, and I really enjoyed making this video. Maybe I can try and do it in the years to come, but if I read more than like 30 books, it's going to be very impossible. So we'll see. But yes, that is every single book. I read it in 2019. I can't wait to see what reading 2020 brings. Tell me what your reading goals are for 2020, because I'd love to hear them. What you're planning on reading, what your TBRs, link me to everything down below. I'd love to hear about it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more bookish content in the coming new decade. Wild. And have a great New Year, guys. Bye.